Hey guys, 59 Perlen here. Tonight I have a video for you that is a track breakdown of a Digitakt composition. I posted this track some days ago, and today I want to show you in detail how I made the drone sound design on this. And if you like the video, I would be happy if you subscribe to my channel. I post a new tutorial video every Monday night. So let's go into this. Before I start, I'm gonna quickly go through the track and give you an idea how it sounds like. And then we go into some of the soundtracks and check what I did there in detail. So have a listen first how it sounds like.
You're not living, because when you're in that hospital room and you see somebody laying on that bed, in the day, moon stars at night, it's telling you straight up it's time to unite. Act like you don't do as willpower, imagination. You still, no matter what they take, we look at the Kemet or Egyptian theology, we see that.
Okay, I think you got the idea. I think you noticed already these parameters here while the track was playing that they move around. And this is made with the help of a feature of the Digitakt that's called MIDI Loopback. In a nutshell, the MIDI out of the Digitakt is connected to the MIDI in of the Digitakt, and that enables you to control a lot of CC parameters by LFOs, which are controlled by the MIDI tracks of the Digitakt. And this is cool because the normal LFO functionality controls only a couple of parameters. And by assigning a CC parameter to a MIDI track, you can control most likely all of the CC parameters, and you can control up to 8 at once. And that opens a completely new world for drone design and for drone manipulating. I just discovered this feature. I'm not going so much into detail today. I will make a separate tutorial video about this because it's really fantastic. But you know that I'm controlling something with this feature. Regarding the track configuration itself, I have a swing percentage of 57 on this track. I usually have amounts around this for my tracks, and the speed is 120 beats per minute. And I will quickly go through the first 5 tracks because they are pretty, well, some of them are pretty normal. Let's start with the kick sound. That sounds like this. This is really an ordinary kick sound from a lo-fi sampler, which I enriched with some tom sounds. And it sounds like this. Just a sound, and that plays before the kick sound and after the kick sound. And on the 4th page, I added this sound 1 octave down with a huge amount of reverb, and that gives this like a little like a drum sound. That's a deep drum sound. And that's everything happens on the kick track. The first track is usually my track for the kick, but this time it's a little different because when I started creating this track, I started by generating the texture. I go into detail soon. And this is made by a couple of tracks that are using the same sound. And on the first track, I was using like a pad sound, and I forgot when I started creating the kick track, I forgot to reset the settings. And that was the point where the kick sound was modulated like this. The LFO is modulating the sample loop position, and that gives this kick sound a very electric appearance like this. You can still hear the kick playing. It's like a click sound now. But the effect that the frequency of the LFO of the loop position is getting closer and closer generates a bass sound which I liked a lot. And this is the reason why this track is only using this sound as a bass sound. There's no other bass sound in this track. And it makes it sound the whole track kind of electric, I think. And the I variated the pattern. On the first page there are 4 tricks like playing the kick pattern. On the second page I just removed 1 trick, and on the 4th page I removed also 2 tricks. So there's a little variation on 4 pages. And what I did as well, some of the tricks, they use additional reverb, decays here. And as I told you before, the decay is controlled by the MIDI loopbacks. And that results in a moving frequency of the high-pass filter. You see that it's slowly moving up and down, and also the volume of the decay is moving up and down, and this gives this the decay send effects of this track and all the other tracks that are sending decay to the decay send effect. They move around, and this makes this sound already pretty interesting over time. You hear that? So this is already like a little evolving texture itself. And it also generates a good amount of low frequency on this track. And together with the kick sound, it sounds like this. Then we have track number 3 and number 4. I'm not going too much into detail in this because they have nothing special in this track. I'm using a lot of probability, play probability on this one, and they to create some variations. And you hear I'm using a lot of click sounds and some ghost snares. There they are. And what I use a lot on one of these tracks, in most of my tracks, is micro timing. So just some explanations on the hi-hats. The hi-hats, they play a different volume. Each hi-hat of the 4 on one page, they play a different volume. So this is lower, this is even lower, and this is a little higher. And each trick is placed on different micro timings. This one is placed before the grid, this one is placed on the grid, this one is placed a little behind the grid, and so forth. And together with the different volumes, it creates a little organic touch to the hi-hat sound that doesn't play exactly on the grid all the time. The same happens to the clap sound, which is extremely short, the amplitude. And there are some click sounds before and after. And all of those sounds are played with a randomness, with a random factor of 40% or 41 or 30%. So that all helps create some randomness in this track. This could even be a little higher. Open the filter. Then we have something on track number 5, that is the vocal track. That sounds like this.
You got to renew yourself. Renew your life, renew your thoughts, renew your thinking. I'm talking to us.
And this is basically pretty simply created. It's just a huge sample of a speech of a guy who talks about praying to something. And this sample is so huge, I didn't even expect it that the Digitakt is able to process it. I think it was around 40 megabyte or something. It's really big. And when I load up this track, the Digitakt takes some seconds or some moments to process and display the waveform. But what I do here is basically I'm modifying the sample start position with an LFO, which moves around, and each time the trick is the sample is triggered, it plays a different part of this sample. And the trick only plays one of 2 times. That means I have 4 pages. This trick is only played each 8th the head passes this trick. And then it plays like 16 notes. And when I play this track, you can see how the start position moves around in the waveform.
Let's rise back up. Let's resurrect.
Now it switches.
You take it day by day, step by step, and you start to move on your plan.
One more time.
We see that Amun-Ra went to war with the blackness, and you can find this in Sheikh
There you have this. And this track also has some decay on it. And as I showed you earlier, the decay is modified by the MIDI Loopback function. And as it's a send effect, all tracks that are using the delay are participating of the modulation of the decay filter and the decay volume. And also this track
Holy Quran says, seek refuge through patience
is generating decay variations by this. As you can see here, the filter is still moving up and down. And yeah, this creates one more time more variation. Sometimes the words are cut in the middle of something. This is like random stuff. And pretty often a sentence stops when the word is spoken.
will be potholes and obstacles. So you got to go around it. The power to assist, comprehend.
Yeah. So these are those 5 tracks. Now we come to the most important one, and that is the texture that I want to show you how I made this. And it sounds separated, it sounds like this. could play this for hours. Actually, I love this sound. How I created this, I switched to a different pattern in my project to show you what I did. This sound actually consists of 4 different tracks which are playing one and the same sound, but differently pitched to different octaves and with different settings. So track number 1 sounds like this. So basically, this whole texture is created with one sound that sounds like this. It's a loop I found somewhere. That's it. But this is not really a loop. This ends somewhere and it's not really evolving. If you use this for a track of 10 minutes, this gets boring pretty soon. This is why I'm not a big fan of using loops in my tracks. I always try to generate my own loops with the features of the Digitakt. So this is the bass sound. And on track number 1, this plays like this. It's basically the sound itself. And it plays with a loop here. So it never ends. But I don't care about setting a perfect loop position. So I really want the loop not to sound perfect. And that's why you hear some clicks from time to time. I like those clicks. I'm not a fan of perfect loops. So you hear them. And sometimes, on the first trick of the 8 pages, the loop restarts, and then there's a little variation in the sound because the sound starts somewhere here in the last third of this waveform, and the loop is even starting later, and that creates already a variation while this sound plays. That is the number 1. There are no effects on this one. It's just playing pretty dry. Number 2 is playing 1 octave down. And it's playing reversed. This gives once more a little variation. And this is not looped, it's just playing reversed. Then the third variation of this sound is this. This plays 1 octave higher than the bass note. And this is modulated, the sampling start position is modulated again with an LFO. Somewhere in the middle of the whole waveform, and it's placed in a loop actually. What I did here, because this looping with LFO modulation creates a lot of high frequency sounds, which I thought it was too loud, so I lowered down the low pass filter a little bit and I cut off the very high frequencies. So when I play all those sounds together, they create a more soft result. And the last sound is this one. And this is, it plays tricks on each page. And it also modulates the sample start position on each trick, and that looks like this on the waveform view. And all together they sound now like this one. This could be a little louder. And those four, I'm gonna resample them. So I bounce those four tracks into one sample. Let's go ahead. Arm, play. Okay, that's okay. Okay, don't rename it. Okay, then let's assign it to track number 8. I assigned this new sample to track number 8 now. Plays now like this. Sorry, this is now wrong. Just modify this one here. 264. Okay, this is cool, but it's not really evolving. And what I did here, I added an LFO which modulates the filter frequency with a low speed. I will show you that in a couple of minutes with the final track. But you hear what it sounds like. And on my final track with the MIDI Loopback function, it also uses the delays and the reverbs, which are modulated again by the MIDI tracks. And then I get a pretty evolving sound at the end. So you see how that works. On track number 7, I have a sound that was also a happy accident. It sounds like this. And this is basically the sound that I used to create the textures. I assigned to this track. It sounds like this. Sorry, this is a different sound. I'm wrong. I was using this for creating a melody, which I didn't use at the end. But I created this sound by using the chord that I created in a different session. But the sound is just a basic. It's just a basic, I don't want to say chord progression, it's just 2 notes played by an oscillator waveform, which is a default sound of the Digitakt. And I modulate the tune of this sample with an LFO again in the low speed, a very low speed, and a medium depth, or well, it's also a pretty low depth, and that results in this sound. If I switch this off, you hear that it's pretty the original sound I showed you before. I'm what makes it interesting is the movement of this tune modulation. And again, also this track is using the delay, which is once more modulated by the MIDI tracks, and that gives it on top some movement. And that sounds like this.
When we look at the Kemite or Egyptian theology, we see
so that's basically the track. I didn't show you the track number 6. Track number 6 is a little melody that I like to add from time to time or fade in from time to time. It's pretty basic. It's also created using one of the Digitakt's factory oscillator samples. Which I play in a very small loop. So yeah, this is basically my track. If you have questions regarding the texture creation or the MIDI loopback, leave them in the comments below. And yes, I hope you liked it. And if you want to know more about Digitakt sound design, I suggest check the videos that are embedded now to get more information, and subscribe to my channel if you want.